Hello there, this is Anna Amelia from Northeast Animal Rights. I'm delighted to welcome along today Randal Plunkett, the Lord of Dunsany, for our Saturday Spotlight interview. So welcome and thank you very much for doing this for us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Great. Well, we'll go straight to the questions. Now, the question I normally ask everyone is, can you tell me about your vegan journey? But yours is kind of, I want to do this in the same way, but a bit more convoluted. So you've got a very, very interesting background. You're the 21st Baron of Dunsany. You've got a saint in your family history, which not a lot of people can claim. You've got a castle, you've got masses of land, and obviously you're very, very wealthy. So you're not a typical animal rights activist. So can you tell me about why you decided to go against the grain? So the kind of like, we think of the aristocracy being pro-hunting, pro-shooting, and pro-animal agriculture. So how and why did you do that? And how did you become vegan as well?
So I should point out first that my family is the oldest family in Ireland, still associated with one place. We've been here almost 950 years.
Wow.
Typically, with people like me, you expect me to be those gentlemen with the red coats. That couldn't be any further from the truth. We have a saint in the family, yes. We also have the founder of the Department of Agriculture here. In fact, my relative Horace Plunkett was probably a keystone piece in the industrialization of agriculture in Ireland. Now, at the time, that was very important because Irish people were starving. There was no money, and this was an opportunity that Ireland could become productive. And being a republic, they now had to fend for themselves, and this was a way to do it. Problem is with that, we summarize that, in reality, that fueled the abilities for animal agriculture to become more prominent in Ireland. So essentially, you could say that we were in part the cause of the situation we are in today. I won't say that we are the root cause, but we definitely created or added to the situation. Now, I won't judge past generations because past generations have problems of their time. We cannot pass judgment on people's generations that have passed. We can only try and do better in our time. So my job, well, let me summarize again. With my family, we have traditions. One of our traditions is we must always do something good for our time. We can't just be opulent people who live off the fat of the land. That's not how we in my family roll. So Horace Plunkett tried to do something for the poor, for the department, for the agriculture, to give Ireland an opportunity. We built schools, etc. The saint was a saint. I get to go to heaven no matter what I do. As a result of that, it's good to have a man on the inside.
It is.
Now when I took over this place, the biggest problem is what was our generational struggle. I always get very upset when people say we're very civilized. Oh, those people are not civilized. We are civilized. But let's boil that down. We have concentration camps so we can have cheap meat. We are destroying our world very quickly. We want people to be kind to each other. We want inclusion, yet we're not willing to include the other people or the other creatures on this planet. We have a hierarchy system to which I am a product of and a beneficiary, may I add. But just because that system exists doesn't mean there's any longevity in it. We must always be striving to better ourselves and live by the highest level of standards that includes morality and ethics. So as someone who wishes to better the people, my people and my family and myself, how can one not be vegan? Because cruelty in any manner or form evolves into more cruelty. I'm cruel with animals, I'll become cruel to women and gay people or people with other skin tones. It's a muscle that the more you train it, the more it erodes at our character. Now, one could argue, but we always did it. I'm like, well, we also used to drink from lead pipes and throw our toiletries out the window. That's not a good excuse. We should always be trying to evolve to a higher state of being. And that's, for me, the beginning of where the ethical side of my journey went. But 10 years ago, I was the opposite of vegan. I used to ask vegans, where do you get your protein? And bacon, though, and all those other things that every vegan is tired of. I was that meathead who was into protein powders and eating eggs, raw eggs, because I saw Rocky when I was a kid. Problem is, despite my ignorance, I always knew I was being lied to because when you look at any kind of manual for sports nutrition or anything, look at who funds the studies.
Yeah.
Do you really trust the Dairy Council for good information on science? Because I don't. So we know that this stuff causes cancer. So that led to my journey. Well, if this is not what we're supposed to eat, then what should we be eating? And you know what the funny thing is? Those people that I used to mock had much more wisdom than me. So not only did I become vegan overnight, because once the decision was made and I tried it and I realized that I felt so much better, there was no more meat ever again. That was 10 years ago, and I haven't broken my veganism since. And even beyond that, how can one only go halfway and be vegan when one vegan as in plant-based and not really consider what it means to be vegan, which is the ethical side. So I've been ethical vegan 9.5 years, and I'm very happy with my decisions.
Yeah. It's interesting you sort of make the differentiation between plant-based and vegan and the ethics of veganism, because we have obviously this battle at the moment where, you know, veganism, the word has exploded, so everybody kind of like puts their own meaning on it, and actually the meaning is the whole ethical lifestyle. It's not just about the food. So it is important that people understand the difference between that. So how did you decide? Why and how did you decide to rewild the land you have?
Well, I was a bit sad because honestly, we were beginning to see the first signs in the media of how there was biodiversity crisis. I mean, it hadn't become a buzzword yet.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so I was scared that the ozone would melt my head. And then that didn't really happen. But the truth is we were overfishing, destroying the land. I mean, the more I started hearing the research about how animal agriculture was such a destroyer of the environment, and I saw it myself because you have to understand, I was a farmer.
Yeah.
And I had to, you know, I got some cattle, and the man who sold me the cattle dehorned them late. So they were bleeding heads, and I had to watch and help clean their heads. And I was looking into the eyes of these animals, and I said, this is progress. This is our civilized world. And I'm sitting here, it's like, you know what I am? I'm not a farmer. I'm a butcher.
Yeah.
And for me personally, the creature in front of me had a mother. I have a mother.
Yeah.
If I did that to somebody, I'd go to jail.
Yeah.
I do it to someone who doesn't have a voice. I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
So the problem is with that is if we want this better planet that we keep wanting and talking about, you've got to do the work. And the first thing starts with erasing the hierarchy system. We are all equal, but it's not just humans. It has to be animals and plants. And then we evolve our thinking. And then no longer do we see colors. We don't have to have a tick box section. Where do you go to the toilet? Are you Jewish, Muslim, or whatever? We only see people, and we only see nature. And with that, rewilding came because the idea was, I always knew nature knew more than us. The idea that we think we can control nature is a lot like an ant trying to understand an airplane. Yeah. It's not possible. Our little limited minds have no ability to comprehend the things that are going there. But it doesn't mean we can't move with the flow. But the first thing is to acknowledge that nature knows everything and we know nothing. Being very simple, nature will know what it needs to do. And if nature is going to evolve itself, it will tweak and pull and adjust as needed. Just like we evolve. If you ever go to the gym, you go and train squats, your legs hurt for the first few days, and then you come back to the gym, you get stronger. Your body has adapted. Nature we are a replica of nature. We are an echo of nature. We do the same thing. So why do we feel that the human race is different? Why do we think that nature would be different than us? We are products of nature. So that's where that concept burned in my mind, and then I allowed nature to start having its way, and then all the magic started, and then I knew I was right.
We saw that with the pandemic, actually, didn't we? When people weren't allowed to go out, in the area we've got a lot of woodlands behind us, and we do a lot of litter picking events and things around this area. And we found that when people weren't able to go out, obviously there was no litter, but apart from that, obviously the trees and the plants just kind of like took over. There was more birds around because there was less humans. It was just it was just amazing. And then obviously the pandemic ended and it kind of like went back, and there was litter everywhere, and the plants were getting trodden on and cut back. And, you know, so you're right, it does, nature does know what they need to do.
It does. And the thing is, we ourselves as humans need to understand that the past decisions of the past, there's nothing we can do about that now. What we can do is make better decisions for the forward and allow nature to come back.
Yeah.
But it comes with respect. We must consider animals, and not just animals. We have to get rid of this concept of value.
Yeah.
Your chicken is not worth more than your dog.
Yeah.
Life is equal. And if we can grasp that concept, we'll solve a lot of world's problems.
Yeah.
And we have to incorporate nature into our cities and villages, because, you know, when we are around nature, we are at peace. There is a lot of, the Japanese now prescribe forest therapy, as in going around the forest, as a way to help with mental illness.
Yeah.
What does that tell you? We've gone so off piece. The idea that we eat meat is very interesting, because if you look at how the human race developed, a lot of the naysayers will say, well, we developed because we ate meat, and our brains developed because of all the animal protein, which I would have some arguments against. But let's go with that for a moment. Let's just say that that's true. So we physically are designed for fruit. That's why we see color, why we like the sugar and the sour tastes, you know, in our palate. Our digestive system, our teeth, the alkali, saliva, all of those things lend themselves to a vegetable eating animal. We are probably the only one that will eat meat thinking that it's good for us. Even people say, oh, but monkeys sometimes eat meat. Yes, they sometimes eat meat. They can survive by eating meat, just like we have survived because of necessity. That doesn't mean it's a good decision. I can survive smoking cigarettes too, but it's not a good decision. But we really started going into the meat consumption when we developed fire. And fire is something of an anomaly, because we're the only creature that can make fire, unless there are dragons around that I'm not aware of. So we created fire. We, as a result, were able to cook our food, which means we spent less time chewing. That has a problem with our biology. And the old concept of you are what you eat came into effect. So instead of eating vegetation, we started including animal products, and then gradually more. But what is an animal product? You kill an animal in a farm or a slaughterhouse. You have anxiety, you have fear hormones, you have all these things building up. Now do that every day for the rest of your life. And now think about what your brain is doing. Your brain is absorbing all this fear, anxiety, inflammation, and then you're not thinking correctly. You're scared, you're angry, you're violent towards your neighbor. This reason is because we've gone off-piste. We are the only species on the planet that doesn't seem to find harmony with our environment. And why? We're the only species in our probably in the world that is not eating the food we should be eating. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out.
You don't. So all of the things you're doing, though, I mean, you know, obviously you've got a lot of resources available to you, you know, it's practically, logistically, and financially, but how hard was it to get other people kind of like in your sort of your neighborhood, your farming community? How hard was it to get them on board, or they're not on board, or they just kind of, do they just see you as an outlier, kind of like doing your own thing, or?
So I should point out, these estates are very costly. They're not what they used to be. Taxes is very high and stuff. With these, we're usually asset rich and liquid poor. That's usually how they're best described, because we don't get any support or anything like that. When I decided to do rewilding, and I should point out that we still are a farm. 2/3 of this estate is crops. We expelled animal agriculture. I don't wish to profit from any harm, but we do crops. 2/3 of the property still does crops. The 1/3 is for nature. One hand washes the other, so to speak. I got rid of animal agriculture. I lost 25% of my income. And surprise, surprise, we desperately need income, because castles and places like this need a lot of, and we look after a lot of people, a lot of employees. So I had to supplement that with more work. So I work 7 days a week now. But you know what? I love my decisions, because I would work every day of my life as long as they don't have to ever be part of any murder.
Yeah.
And in fact, we got rid of animal agriculture and we started rewilding, and we have seen the complete opposite. Nature is booming. And there's a lot of problem these days with the concept of rewild. I have a problem with rewilding because myself and, let's say, the NEP estate in the UK, you guys might know what that is. It's a big estate that started rewilding a bit before me. And they are very keen on something which I call a bullshit concept, excuse my French, regenerative grazing.
Yeah.
Regenerative grazing, the concept is that the animals will graze certain lands, giving opportunity to weaker species and so on, so on. The way buffaloes and wolves used to roam, they would create what I call push-pull effects on the land. None of that is wrong, except that we are feeding our bad habits again. It's the difference between having a full-fat Coke and a Coke Zero.
Yeah.
The chances are they're still terrible for you. And it's terrible for our environment. And we haven't really learned anything. We're just paying a premium for the same nonsense.
Yeah.
Now, I have, having spent a bit of time in America, I would call that, there's a term for that called sucker. You are a sucker if you buy into that nonsense.
Yeah.
I do not do that. The regenerative grazing concept is nonsense because it fuels the same thing. You are saving in one and you are losing in the other. Methane gases, all that stuff. And also, I will point out one thing that a lot of people don't know. A domesticated animal, even if it's an ancient breed, is domesticated the same way my dog is domesticated. It will not be part of nature. It will not cycle the correct patterns in nature. There's a very different thing between a buffalo that's allowed to free roam and that isn't, you know, getting scratched on the head or have to like feed from a bucket, or if it gets sick, it gets antibiotics, which is another problem.
Yeah.
And that's what they have in these kinds of regenerative grazing projects. They have animals that see the vet, they roam from pen to pen. Yes, it's less bad, the same way low fat is less bad, but it's still nonsense. The only way nature works is if nature is allowed to work, which means free roaming. Animals deal with themselves. The wolf takes out the buffalo, but the humans don't get involved with that.
Yeah.
The humans benefit with the pollinators and so on, so on, so on. But that's not what regenerative grazing is. Regenerative grazing is a way that the meat industry can charge more for the same rubbish, and we can get no benefits at all. Because the truth is, even the push-pull concept, meaning that the interference, if the nature doesn't have it from an animal, and this is what Dunsany has been trying to prove, nature will make an adjustment. Nature is a lot like water. It will find a crack and seep into it. But what we've done here is we allowed nature to have its natural things. So the first thing, the grasses, the dominant species, grow and dominate. And if there's no animal to destroy them or to give an opportunity for weaker species, you will find a plant adaptation. And that's what we're seeing here at Dunsany. The plants are adapting and doing things. And even the animal behavior is changing. Our invasive species, for example, you might have heard of rhododendron and cherry laurel, which are big invasives in the UK and Ireland, are destroying them and managing our own forests. It's not us. The deer themselves started protecting the forest. That is why vegan rewilding is one of the best weapons that we can find. The carbon absorption that we found here at Dunsany, a normal grasslands in Ireland, according to our Department of Agriculture, is between 4 and 6 tons. Now, they're not taking into account that agricultural land gets grazed and then the cows pop off methane. So, but we'll ignore that for the moment. Our land in 2022 absorbed almost 20 tons per hectare. So 4 times. That's nearly at peatland levels. So these grasses are able to absorb, and the fact that they're not being grazed by buffalo or some sort of sheep means that they are going straight back into the soil, and the soil is getting the benefit. And I will say one other thing. You hear a lot of things about biodiversity. Biodiversity is a made-up term by humans, and it isn't wildflower meadows. It's a lot like being young. You're all wildflowers when you're young, but then eventually you get to my age and you start to be a weeping beech tree or etc. And then when you get really old, you're an oak tree and you're probably going to fall over. But the truth of the matter is, we always want to have a snapshot of what life is. Life is a circle, and it's a spiraling circle. It's constantly shifting and changing and adjusting. But the thing is, nature is its best way to balance. And there will always have to be a bit of this before there's a bit of this. And then finally there's this. But even this is not how it is. It's always this.
Yeah. I know, I mean, you were talking about regenerative. I mean, we've said exactly the same thing. It's a bit like, they are almost like the new organic. It's kind of like the new, you know, but the public sort of like get wise to the fact that organic animals brought up on an organic farm and also on, you know, on intensive farms, they end up on the same kill floor. And regenerative farming is exactly the same. They all end up in the same kill floor. So ultimately, it's just about the animals, isn't it? I mean, it's always about the fact that no matter how you dress it up, it's always going to be animals getting killed and animals getting bred and, you know, modified and created, bred for something which we don't need.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the problem is with any of that concept is it's flawed, because the truth is we know what we need to do. If everybody shifted to a plant-based vegan diet, I use plant-based because I realize that many people will never go vegan, but if we all shifted to a plant-based diet, let's keep that. The truth is we can reduce a lot of the problems that the environment is having. If we allowed a lot of that grazing land to, and bear in mind, I should tell you something which was shocking to me. In 2020, during the COVID, we have about 1,000 acres in plant agriculture. And I spoke to the farmers who were farming my land, and they said to me, I was asking them, what's the ratio of how much of their produce goes into the food chain? And they said, probably this year, maybe it's been a good year, maybe 20%. And I was like,
wow.
What's happening to the other 80%? Pig feeds.
Yeah.
We're talking chemicals, pesticides, tilling, destruction of the environment for pig feeds. Now, personally, I love pigs. I will never eat a pig. And anyone who's ever had any close contact with a pig, it's like a dog. But even if it wasn't like a dog, the fact that you are destroying huge quantities of land and spraying chemicals, giving everybody cancer and all kinds of mental problems for pig feed. Now, people say, oh, we need to feed the world. Well, I tell you, if we spent that 80% putting it in the food chain, and if we got rid of all the meat and dairy out of the supermarket, there'd be a lot of opportunity for alternative products, including heritage foods, because that's the other problem. We eat the same stuff over and over again. Apples, you have maybe 2 or 3 varieties. Do you know how many apples we have? There are apples that I have that I'm trying to protect in my own land here. Heritage species that once they're gone, I have 1 or 2 trees here that are unique. Once those trees are gone, that's it. That's the species gone. They're extinct because there's no interest in it, because we've developed some magic French American apple, probably 0 nutrition and looks good on a shop. And yet we're erasing these quality foods that perhaps aren't as attractive, but have all the importance of nutrition and well-being in their tiny little body shapes. And instead we are focusing on goat's milk.
We've said, you know, we often say to people, it's a soya myth, isn't it? It's like when people say to us that, you know, on almonds as well, and, you know, you're creating all these problems, you know, you're responsible for deforestation in Brazil because of all the soya being created for humans. And we're like, it's not for humans. The majority of it is actually for animals, it's for animal food. So why are we growing plants to feed to animals, to feed to humans? Why don't we just grow plants to feed to humans? That's the fundamental baseline, isn't it?
And I get that typical thing as well. But avocados though, and I'm forced to eat avocado. You must think that I'm some fella eating burritos every day. Like, you know, most people I know who are vegan eat normal food. You know, rice and beans and a bit of tofu and vegetables. They must think that everybody who's a vegan must live on Buddha bowls of avocados. And the reality of it is those are foods that we have. But even the carbon cost of sending avocados from Chile, which is, let's be honest, a waste of resources, is still minuscule than buying a pound of local beef. The equivalent of a pound of my neighbor's beef in terms of waste, in terms of water, in terms of resources, is worth like more than 3 avocados from Chile.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I tell you what, I won't eat 3 avocados a week probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
But oats and soya milk, and soya milk is an interesting thing because soya is highly beneficial for your health.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
although there are some problems with processed food, I'm not going to say processed food is healthy,
Yeah.
but we don't have to eat processed food.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
also a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, when I do work in schools, and we talk about the soya milk myth, and kind of the carbon footprint of foods that people will have. So we ask the children to pick maybe like milk. So they look at dairy milk, and they look at oat milk, and they look at the difference in terms of water usage, land usage, the greenhouse gas emissions, and
Yeah.
the numbers are quite scary and really really illuminating for the children as well when they're seeing this. And again, when you talk about avocados, we use avocados, and the obvious nearest thing you'd have avocado on toast or egg on toast. So you talked about them coming from Chile or Peru is the main, and the carbon footprint of them coming over from there is still 10 times less than UK eggs. So it's
I
just
know.
ridiculous that people just can't get this into their head.
And that's the produce. We haven't even touched on the waste.
Yeah,
And because a lot of animal agriculture is destroying rivers, it
yeah,
has knock-on effect.
yeah,
Avocado production or any of these kinds of produces, they have their negatives. They're doing mass farming on a large scale, which,
yeah,
let's be honest, is another aspect that we will have to evolve. And I use the
yeah,
word evolve.
yeah,
But at the same time, it's a lot like we're focusing on the wrong thing, because even things like avocados are minuscule compared to what we destroy with pigs, chicken farms, waste destruction,
yeah,
going into rivers,
yeah,
the level of toxicity. And remember that when you eat animal products, you're taking in pesticides,
yeah,
antibiotics,
yeah.
you're taking in
The hormones, yeah,
huge amounts of IGF-1 producing elements. You are
mm,
getting all this load of toxicity. And they could argue, oh, but there's some benefits. It's got iron. It's got. I would also argue there are alternatives, but
yeah,
for that argument, for bang for buck, even from a scientific perspective,
mm,
there's no argument.
yeah,
The only argument, it's like what the tobacco industry did, is we don't have to present that cigarettes are healthy. We just have to create an alternative spin on the reality.
yeah,
Oh, but are cigarettes unhealthy though?
yeah,
Which is exactly what I hear. Yes, they are. And same with people. Oh, but even the WHO know that eating red meat is a
yeah,
carcinogen.
yeah,
And if they are saying it, they're
mm,
well behind.
mm,
So we've
yeah,
known for years all
mm,
these products are
mm,
killing us,
mm,
and we're addicted to killing ourselves and
mm,
killing everybody around us as well.
mm,
And that's the problem.
mm,
The only way we have to break the chains is we have to be very aggressive in terms of trying to create the alternatives. So
mm,
people who are producing alternative products, people who are avoiding and boycotting companies
mm,
who are profiting,
mm,
and forcing there to be options.
yeah,
Because you know what? Even the big chains are starting to produce options.
yeah,
And with sales, when you pay for something, you're voting. And you know what? McDonald's doesn't care where they get their food. They only care about the money. So if everybody's ordering vegan, guess what? They will throw beef burgers out tomorrow.
mm,
And
yeah,
the reality is, I'm not excusing companies like McDonald's, but I'm merely stating it's
mm,
we the people who
yeah,
dictate, and we the people must evolve our
yeah,
practice. And anyone who uses nature as an argument, if I don't know what to tell you. Maybe you
yeah,
should also go to certain countries and throw stones at homosexuals, or
yeah,
there burn people in cages, because that's not behavior that I think is right. And I
yeah,
think, to be honest, there's something beautiful about veganism,
mm,
because veganism is a step into a heaven. People
yeah,
want to go to heaven, but
mm,
heaven is what you make it. It's
yeah,
the world we live, we make it. So
mm,
if you put out those kinds of negative energies, well, absolutely, you're going to get it back.
yeah,
But if you start with if you start working in a way where we create happiness, we create love in our societies, guess
yeah,
what?
mm,
First, there'll be
yeah,
resistance, but eventually there'll be acceptance.
mhm,
And then surprise, surprise, the world's not such a crappy place after all.
yeah. So do you, I mean, with our work, we often get asked, you must find it really, really hard and tiring and, depressing. But I'm kind of like more of a look at how far we've come, rather than how far we've got to go. So do you feel positive about the future, about, what we're doing?
Well, I'm not a person who likes to feel depression, sadness, or I'm not one of those people because I think those are excuses. When I had despite my position, I had a very difficult upbringing. And I was always last to the class. I was always ridiculed. And what I've learned in my time is one must always look at what they're doing. And if you want real happiness, it's not a pill. It's not a boyfriend or a girlfriend or another friend. You got to make yourself happy. And I'll tell you, this is a mission for me. It's probably the most important thing I will do, because the reality of it is, if we fail, and I'm in a position of advantage, if I don't fight every day, why are we going to get out of bed? Because we're doomed. So I don't allow myself to feel sad. I allow myself to feel angry, because my anger fuels me to go even harder, more. And I am a person who loves the battle. I come from a long line of killers, so that killer instinct is there. And the thing is, but the difference is, I fight with my logic and I try and win people over, because the reality of it is, we have a massive amounts of change. And some people will listen to me and say, that guy's an idiot. And that's fine. I used to look at certain vegans, the ones who tend to hug trees or do that stuff, because that weirded me out. And I'm not that guy. I always got put off by the very hippie stuff. I wasn't that guy. I was a heavy metal listening guy. So I like logic, and I like science. So what we're doing here is to develop. The problem is with science is, the science is dictated by he who has an agenda and pays for it. We don't take money here. What we do here is, all science is open source. It's free. Education should be free. And it's important to offer the alternative, because the alternative is being lied. We're being lied to by people who have an interest. So there's no interest at Dunsany. I don't take anybody's money, even though it would be beneficial to me and even allow me a bit more flexibility with my project. I cannot pollute the mission with self-interest. And the fact of the matter is, we must fight for what we believe. You want a better world? Get ready to go to war then. And that's the way I see it. And I've had it. I've had a window shot out. I've fought with fox hunters. They loathe me in this area, because I represent everything that is wrong with them, because I'm a title person. I should be on the horse. I should be at the pub. I should be sitting there in a red jacket and being an absolute ponce. I don't drink pimps. I don't like polo. I hate riding horses. I don't do any of that stuff. And instead, I hang out with the guys who are breaking up hunts. I have been one of those people who, and what what they are scared of is people like me, who they can't intimidate financially. And suddenly I'm a person who is creating problems for these absolute monsters. And bear in mind, it's very interesting, because those red coat wearing monsters, that whole hunting thing was a symbolic thing that the British tried to do to intimidate the Irish here. And in England, you have certain laws, Britain, you have certain laws against hunting, even though they're a joke. But in Ireland, there are no such laws. So we celebrate the actions of tyranny. And what's ironic is, people like me, who perhaps founded this kind of behavior, are not the ones on the horses today. It's the other way around. Isn't life ironic? So they think that, and I'm very aggressive with them. And you know what? They're running scared. Because I do prosecute. I do call the police, and they can't intimidate. They've shut out my windows. They've tried to slash my tires. And you know what I say? I'm a gentleman of leisure. I will keep annoying you because I have nothing better to do. True. But they don't know that, and then they're never going to watch this. So that's they're definitely never going to subscribe to your channel. But intimidation, they don't like it. And in fact, they're just a bunch of bullies. And when a bully gets bullied back, they don't know what to do with it. That's why. So we are destroying and dismantling hunting in this area. And what we've started doing here is creating a unity, because even though the farmers are doing things that I don't agree with, they also don't like them. So the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and we all hate them.
Yeah, that's good. That sounds absolutely amazing. I didn't really realize, I didn't realize that the level of involvement with the local fox hunting. But so
Fox hunting, deer hunting, and beagles. I've thrown and prosecuted badger baiters and the like here. We are constantly at war. They have a lot of benefit because they have a lot of advantages with the local police, so it's very difficult. But I'm very good at being annoying. Very good at it, actually.
So what's next for you then? I mean, we're kind of like running out of time now. I feel as if I could talk to you for hours.
Yeah, because I can talk for Ireland. Okay. Well, I just did the new Game Changers. I don't know if you know the vegan documentary. We just did part 2 here. So hopefully the vegan rewilding message, which I like to call Rewilding.
Rewilding, yes, I've heard that, yeah.
So that's a new thing that we need to get away, because we need to kill this regenerative grazing propaganda. We have a documentary about the Rewilding project here and myself coming out, I think, in 2025. I have a book that's going to be released in spring, summer in 2025, also about the Rewilding. I'm doing loads of talks, including for Viva in the UK.
Yeah.
So I'll be in London on the 21st. And I'll be talking to Joey Carbstrong and a bunch of other friends at the event in October. Yeah. So I hope to see some of your followers there.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Discuss, and we can go for vegan snacks afterwards. Because the only thing is with vegan food is it's so good to eat processed vegan food. I love it. I know Dr. Greger is always going on about the whole plant fat, low fat diet, but I am totally not on that. No. Give me the soya, give me the peri chip. I'm down with that. Is there anything better than vegan ice cream? Yum, yum. Yeah,
you need to go to Mildred's, and when you're in London, Mildred's is amazing. Really, really good stuff.
Well, I always go on what I call the vegan tour.
Yeah.
Which is great. Obviously, I like my vegetables, but I also like my processed crap. Yeah. So it's not going to pretend it's healthy, but I do like it.
Yeah, but we're vegan for the animals, aren't we? Not for the health. So
we're vegan for the animals, and to be honest, there's nothing wrong with ice cream as long as it's soya cream and not cow's milk. But the truth is, we're working hard. But the thing is, I definitely in 2025 I'm hitting the schools, because the way I see it is the only way we change is I took a page out of the CIA handbook. You got to go to schools and sell crack, and my crack happens to be green crack. I'm trying to be like a drug dealer. I know that's really inappropriate to say, but
no, it's exactly what I do. I mean, a big part of what we do is education, and I'm going to loads of schools, all the way through from reception all the way through to sixth formers, having debates about animal rights. And it's amazing to see how in tune with animals that children actually are. And if we get them and and educate them, and they stay like that, well, they are the vegans of the future. So
that's exactly. And the thing is, we're actually winning.
Funny
enough.
We are.
Because the ironic thing is that I see this the generation after mine, who are in their 20s now. There are a lot of them are vegan. Like I would be, when I started filming, I'm a film director. So when I started filming, there would be 1 or 2 vegans, 15 years ago. My last film set, it was 50% vegan.
Yeah.
And the film set that I was at last week, it was 50% vegan. And that's crazy. And by 2030, it'll be 80% to 90% vegan.
Yeah.
And it'll be because this is a war of attrition.
Yeah.
And vegans are going to live longer than the rest of them.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to win.
That's a good note to end on. Actually, we are going to win, because we are going to win. We know that because we're on the right side. So we have to win, and we will win. Yeah. So we're going to sign off now. So it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you, and more power to you and all of your work. It's been amazing talking to you.
Great. If you ever want me back, I'm happy to come and talk to any one of you guys. And listen, keep doing the great work you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Every life we save is a life worth doing, because the thing is that we need heroes. We don't need an audience. We need heroes. And every time you make the decision not to go bacon.
Yeah.
You're saving a life. It's literally that simple.
It is. It's so simple. It is. So I'm going to say thank you very much, and we're going to sign off now. So this is Anna Amelia from Northeast Animal Rights saying thank you so much for joining us today, Randal Plunkett, Lord of Dunsany, giving up your time today, and goodbye for now, and hope you enjoy watching.